Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. This is going to be a really fun podcast. I'm super excited that Charles Darby has agreed to join me. And I kind of changed the background for anyone who's looking on our YouTube channel to see this. Decided to include both companies because really Charles could really be hired by anyone in the outdoor industry. I asked Charles to jump on this podcast with me because lucky for anyone in the industry who snaps him up, he is recently left his employer of how many years, Charles?
Close to 19.
19 years as the vice president of sales. And he is very experienced in our two-step distribution and knows the outdoor industry, has a very, very broad background in the outdoor industry. So this is such an amazing talent. I wanted to do, well, this is the only podcast we've done, or the first podcast we've ever done, where I said, hey, this is like an amazingly talented person that our industry needs to know about. How fast can we get him on the air? So I hope this helps. I know this will help our outdoor industry, and I want everyone to know about Charles Darby because he comes highly recommended to me by the past CEO that he has worked with. So, and hired him as a matter of fact. So, welcome, Charles, and thank you for trusting me with this. And I'm super excited that people get to meet you.
Thank you.
It's a great venue. So either you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts when you hear this, or you're watching this on YouTube or perhaps on our website. But we're going to get this out super fast because this is timely. So if you missed out, if you're listening to this and you move too slowly and you missed out on hiring Charles Darby, I suggest you get him on your LinkedIn because he may have already taken another job. So don't be too slow. All right, Charles, welcome. You are in Oregon, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm based in Milwaukee, Oregon.
Milwaukee, Oregon, very close to Lake Oswego, very close to Oregon City, close to Portland. It's a great suburb. And you have a great airport. You can fly in and out of there. You're very experienced at travel, I take it.
I am. I've got about 20 plus years of travel. So, yeah, not a stranger to travel at all.
And that's how relationships are built in this industry, wouldn't you say?
Yep, absolutely.
Where the outdoor industry is full of amazing people that I think value a handshake. I'd love to say we could just do contracts on a handshake, but I think it's more like that than anything else still.
Yeah, I agree. And sales, for me is about face-to-face contact, right? I think the world's changed since COVID and, lots more in the virtual world. But, for me, really the face-to-face building relationships is a very critical component.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, since I know you're going to get snapped up by the time people hear this, just in case though, they should reach out to you. They can always reach out to me and I'll put them in contact with you. That's totally good. There's, this is what we're here for, but tell us about your experience and where you excel in relationship building and what you've accomplished through your long, successful history as a VP of sales. Give us some highlights because there's some real tangible numbers you can share with us.
Yeah, I think, over my career, over the last 20 plus years, the bigger factor for me has really been the B2B dealer business. And that's really where I thrive. That's really where I've really enjoyed a lot of my time in the industry is building relationships with retailers. Coming from that side of the business, it was very, very exciting for me to take programs and build programs around the B2B side of the business, being, a prior dealer in the past, if you will. So my background really started years ago. I attended my first SHOT Show in 1996. I got into retail cutlery in 1996, and I spent about 8 years in retail cutlery. So working anywhere from an associate to a managing partner of a retail cutlery chain.
That's right.
So a lot of my background really comes from retail cutlery. And as I transitioned into manufacturing, it was very easy for me to take all the experiences that I had on the retail side of the business and build programs and sales programs around, things that were very critical to driving and propelling the retail cutlery side of the business. So I really enjoy that. That's where my heart and passion lies. It's really always been something for me that I'm a people person. I love building connections. I love meeting people, and I'm a people first leader. So team building, support, transparency, collaboration. I love winning as a team. I love winning as an organization. Those are things that drive me.
When you're talking about people, because I think this is very hard. I think people very frequently I hear people say they're leaders. They say they know how to build a team. And yet maybe there's not the length of experience. I mean, at 19 years with one employer, and you had experience prior to that, this retail managing partner role, which we can touch on. But let's talk about, how do you build teams, and how do you build a team successfully for a company to make it profitable? Because you can have teams, but maybe not be profitable. How do you find the right people and hire them, and then groom them and help them be successful?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really about finding people that are coachable. It's about finding people that have the same drive and passion as you do, and the passion for winning. It's also very critical that as you build teams, that you have what I call a collective mindset. That means everyone understands what is at stake. Everyone understands how you're moving the ball forward, right? And everyone understands how they play a critical, important role in the success of the business. The other aspect from a profitability standpoint is there's a profitability mindset. And I think in most organizations, profitability, talking about profits and profitability tends to be kind of taboo, but it's what drives business, right? It's what keeps the lights on. And it's very critical that people understand in your organization, whether it's your team or any team members, how they contribute to the profitability of the business and how they make a business profitable.
That's really smart, Charles, because I think that we have this society that thinks that talking about money is bad. And I think that's a mistake when it comes to business, because people don't get paid unless the company makes money. And if your team doesn't understand at a basic level what how their job ties to that, I think it's a mistake of leaders not to do that. I'm glad to hear that, because I do think it's really important, but I think people have this idea that money is taboo to talk about, or profits. And I think that's a mistake, because people, even if they're good at sales, they don't necessarily understand business. And if you don't teach them about business, how will they understand how to make decisions and choose priorities?
Yeah. And I think my biggest partners over the years has always been the finance department. Sales
That's
and
smart.
finance need to be tied together, and it's very critical. I've always structured my behaviors and mindset in business as everything is a cause and effect. Everything you do has a cause and effect, and really to understand what those cause and effects are allows you to be more predictable around, if we were to do A, you're going to get B, right? So partnering with finance, really understanding the financial element of things, that sales and finance partnership is very critical, because on the sales side, we may build programs and not really understand what that means to the business financially. So very important as you're building programs that you understand that there's a financial component to it that's either positive or negative.
I think that's really wise, because I think that sales often gets into a spot where the rest of the organization, or part of it, feels adversarial. And I think that's really smart to go to finance and partner with them, because you're right. It means everything. And if there's transparency and open communication, you're not going to have that adversarial feel.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your role that you're looking for. What's next on the horizon for Charles, and what kind of thing are you interested in? Because I think even though there is, I want to be clear, there's a non-compete here that we're honoring with the cutlery industry. You touch so many other industries. There's so many other industries that are obvious to you and I, but to the people who are listening, what kind of a industry type role, and what type of industry are you interested in?
Yeah, great question. I think, for me, ideally, senior sales director role or VP of sales is what I'm looking for. Core values are very critical to me. I want a thriving
Yeah.
culture, people first organization. We often say work-life balance, but I've really transitioned to life-work balance, which I think is very
Yeah.
critical. Business passion for B2B wholesale. That's where my heart lies. That's what I'm very much interested in. And an opportunity for growth. I have a very much a growth mindset. I love to learn new things, and I get obsessed with new things, and kind of pour my heart into it. And that's really what I'm looking for from a industry standpoint across the board. Manufacturing is where I played with for many years, but
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of other aspects out there, a lot of other roles that may suit my needs, and may be able to utilize my talents over the last 25 years to help grow business. From a leadership perspective, again, as I called out, I'm a very people first leader. I love
Hmm.
team building. I love supporting my team. I'm very transparent as a leader. Collaboration is very important. I love winning as a team and as an organization. Unapologetically accountable. I take full ownership for my actions and decisions. I think that's critical for any leader in any
It
leadership
is.
role.
Yep.
And again, I've played in manufacturing for many years, but yeah, I'm very much open to and excited about what that next opportunity is for me to be able to take all the skill sets that I've learned over the last 25 years and apply that to a business that I can help propel into the future.
That's great. Let's talk about size and scope. So, can you give me a little bit of an idea so that the people that are listening understand the size and scope of which you come from? So, maybe the revenue range of experience for the size of companies that you've worked for, the size of teams that you've grown to, so they have a better idea of scope. And your last employer was privately held, and the retailer before that, I think they were privately held, but you might have to remind me.
Yep, both were. Yep, I like building brands. Of was able to really drive and grow and build with the last brand I was with, and very much enjoyed it. Love the passion, love the opportunities there, and was fun to be able to come in really at the early level stages of growth and build it
Yeah.
to what it was today. So, size and scope of teams. I've managed teams anywhere from on the retail side, 50 plus employees in 10 different states. In the manufacturing side, about 10 plus internal team members. Worked very well with manufacturer reps, oversaw 7 rep agencies, one in
Wow.
Canada, over 50 reps that I managed and oversaw. So very comfortable with manufacturer reps, and that's again where my heart lies, and built a lot of great relationships over the years.
Talk to us about your experience. Is it mostly US and Canada, or is there other coverage
Very much global.
worldwide?
Yep, very much global.
Very
Domestic,
global.
yeah, extensive knowledge in the domestic market, but had responsibilities globally, Asia, Australia, Europe. So
Hmm.
yeah, it did play well on the global side of things as well. So
And how involved did you have any involvement in, what did your sales team have as far as input when it came to product development and input for the engineering team and things when you're talking about the consumer or, your customers' input?
yeah, good question. And my team really represent the voice of the customer, which I think is
Hmm.
very critical, right? And I think in many aspects, there's a lot of elements of incorporating the voice of the customer. I think any brand has to be very careful that you don't incorporate too much. You
Yeah.
tend to go down rabbit holes that you don't want to
Yeah.
experience. But the sales team that I oversaw was very critical in a component in gaining feedback from the field, whether it's our reps or from our dealers, and providing that feedback internal to the business.
Yeah, I think that they want to be heard, don't they? In my experience, the sales team, they want to be able to help and tell the story of the customer, but I think that's a lot of responsibility for a leader in sales to
Mhm.
communicate all that, because you could easily go down rabbit holes
Yeah,
that you don't
absolutely.
want to, as we've seen lately in the news.
Yeah.
So, good. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time here to visit with us and be able to tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah,
Are there a couple other things that you might want to share with us about you? I know you're a family man and you're very proud of your family.
I am. Yeah, I have 4 kids, 3 daughters, and a son that's 2 years old. Spent a lot of time with my family, and at least try to. Yeah, I love to travel. I've been fortunate enough to visit every state in the United States, some more than
Wow.
once.
No
So lots,
kidding.
yeah, lots of travel in the last 20 years. So I'm very
Yeah.
comfortable. It's kind of funny when you have all the airport codes memorized. You've traveled
Oh,
a lot.
I know enough of them that I refer to them too much, but not like you. I've not had that amount of travel.
But ultimately, I'm very passionate about the industry, the shooting, hunting,
Yeah.
sports. I love it. Again, I've been in it for 2 decades. It's where I've lived. I spent half my life in the industry. I've been fortunate enough to meet lots of great people and make lots of great connections. Have
Yeah.
been fortunate enough to work for a very awesome brand that I love today and will love forever. And excited for what the future holds, and what other brands and opportunities are out there.
I
Just
think it's
yeah.
incredibly exciting. I'm thrilled for you. I think, like I told you when I first talked to you, we had to hurry and get you on the podcast because you're going to have a job before I get to work with you very much. But I just think it's worth mentioning that the reason you and I even connected, which is mind blowing, over all this time we've never connected, and I didn't know you before now, but the reason that we were connected is the CEO that hired you,
Mhm.
that you've kept in touch with for 20 years,
Yeah.
sent me a personal note and said, you need to know this guy. He just became available. And I mean, that is probably one of the biggest recommendations I think anyone could ever get.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. So,
Yeah, the story was very interesting. He used to come into my store, my retail store in San Diego, and used to come in there with the rep. And I developed this training program for my team. And one of the passions that really drew me into the knife world was I love materials and
yeah,
blade steels, and I'm really very much technical. I love the technical aspect of things. And I developed this training program for my team in the store that was probably questions you would ask someone that works at Crucible, a steel manufacturing company.
yeah.
And the rep said, "Hey, can I see one of your tests?" And I said, "Sure, here you go." And he walked outside and he showed it, and they were reading through the questions. They're like, "Man, I don't know any of this stuff. Like, this is crazy." And the feedback was like, "You should hire this kid." So
Mhm.
it's just a great
Yeah,
opportunity, right? I was very excited
yeah.
to go do something different and explore a whole new world, which has been very fun for me. It's been a fun ride.
Oh, and I'm not going to keep people in suspense. I'm going to tell them who the CEO is because I'm going to tell you a story about him too. So the person we're referring to is Greg Mooney. And if anyone knows Greg, he's well connected and he's always thinking about who does he know and doing great introductions. And I'm going to tell you something I don't think I mentioned when we were on the phone. When I first started my company, HeadHunters Northwest, I did about a year or so experimenting to see if we wanted to move from accounting and finance recruiting into the outdoor industry. And I wasn't sure. And one of the first people I reached out to that I did not know at the time was Greg Mooney. And he said, yes, I think there's a need. And here's a list of companies you need to know about. And here's what you should do to research this. And do you know that he was very instrumental in me being here today? And I don't even know if he remembers that, but I know he'll listen to this. So thank you, Greg, because you have made an impact on both my life and Charles' life. So that's got to feel pretty good. I hope so.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of this industry, right? Is
Yep.
again, I've met so many wonderful people over the last 2 decades, great connections, and such a passion for the connections and relationships that I've built. But I think that's really what makes this industry special, right? It's
Yep.
everyone is so connected, so quick to help each other out, so quick to jump in and say, "What do you need?" But
Yep.
those connections, are lifelong, and I think it's very important.
And they pay off in profits for the people we work for
Mhm.
because of those relationships.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're going to end it now. And I want everyone to know that's listening to this, you should really connect with Charles Darby on LinkedIn. And if you don't know how to reach him or can't find him, you can always call me and I will put you in touch directly with Charles. But he is going to continue on his very successful career. and a very, very lucky company will get the benefit of all of his experience and success. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate you joining me on this. And we will look forward to the next podcast. Thank you, everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you.